Right. Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming today to our Saturday morning meditation class. So the first thing we do whenever we sit down to meditate is to establish our motivation. So whatever kind of morning we've all had, whatever it took to get here today, we're just going to leave that at the door and take a pause now and center in our intention for our practice. So we always start our practices by generating compassion for all sentient beings and making the wish that our meditation practice will bring benefit to them. So let's just take a moment to do that now, to give rise to bodhicitta, which is the compassionate wish to free all sentient beings from suffering. Okay, and then we'll say the opening prayers, which are the 7-line prayer. We're going to say that 3 times, and we'll be chanting in Tibetan, but you're welcome to follow along in English as well. Organ yogi num jansam pemage sardompola yatsen chogi ngorupe pemajung ne jesurak Kordu kondro mangpo kor ketki jesu dak druki jinji lok chia sheksu so Guru Pama City Home. Organ Yogi Num Jansam Pemage Sardompola Yatsen Chogi Ngorume Pema June Jesurak Kordu Kondro Mangpo Kor Ketki Jesu Dak Druki Jinji Lok Chia Sheksu So Guru Pama City Home. Organ Yogi Num Jansam Pemage Sardompola Yatsen Chogi Ngorugne Pema Jone Jesurak Kordu Kondro Mangpo Kor Ketki Jesu Dak Druki Jinji Lok Chia Sheksu So Guru Pama City Home. Right, so the meditation that we'll be doing today is called Shamatha meditation or calm abiding meditation. And this is a meditation that is common to all Buddhist traditions. You don't have to be Buddhist to practice it. And the instructions, where I'm drawing the instructions from, are from Jutsuma Akanlamo's book, Stabilizing the Mind, which is a really great primer on meditation. So meditation is the natural state of mind when it's relaxed, stable, and open. And Shamatha meditation trains our mind to be calm and relaxed while also being alert and wakeful. And the point of this meditation is to create space in the mind. We normally have so little spaciousness in our mind. It's kind of like watching the TV and you don't know where the remote is, and there's just all sorts of stuff going on in your head and you're bouncing from one thing to another, or just bouncing off of whatever's happening in your day, just kind of in a state of reaction and habitual reaction. So, just Any little thing we do, I feel like so often we come up against something where it's like, oh, it's just my habit of doing it that way. Like I was leaving the house today and my husband had gone out ahead of me and he locked the door behind him because this habit to lock the door behind him, even though I'm right behind him. Like it's, we do that all the time, things like that, where it's like, oh, you're just acting out of habit and you're not even present and aware of what's going on in the moment. And so when we create space in the mind, we allow ourselves to be more aware of what's happening in the moment, what's happening in ourselves, what's going on with our thoughts and emotions, and to also see past the illusion that, a lot of times we think that we are our thoughts. And so when we have spaciousness in our mind, we can come to see that we're not our thoughts, we're not our emotions. We have thoughts, we have emotions, but they're not us. And usually we're so close up in them and swept up by them, it's difficult to see that we're not them. So having that space gives us some time between action and reaction. It gives us space to make decisions instead of following our just reactive patterns. So we can live closer to our values, and closer to our intentions. And this space in the mind is also the first step in the development of bodhicitta, which is the compassionate wish to free all sentient beings from suffering. So our habitual way of being is to think of ourselves. And so when we're wrapped up in our habits and our habitual reactions, that winds up being a very self-focused state of being. But when we create this space in the mind, then we have space to consider others. We have space to bring others into our heart. We have space to develop compassion for other beings. So that spaciousness is very important for developing our hearts, not just our minds. And in the Buddhist tradition, one metaphor that's often brought up is, if you are walking outside and there's a lot of sharp rocks on the ground, and you're walking barefoot, and there's all sorts of rocks or broken glass or whatever on the ground, you're not going to go and cover the whole world with leather. It doesn't make sense. It is completely impractical to cover the whole world with leather so that you can walk around in your bare feet. Instead, we put on shoes, we protect our feet. And then that is protected against no matter where we are in the world. We have leather on our feet, and then we can walk there. So meditation is similar. We're not going to be able, if we put our happiness on external things in our lives, on as soon as I get this job, or if I just didn't have this going on in my life, I wouldn't be so stressed. Or if only this other person would act the way I want them to, then I wouldn't be so upset. And we often try to control all of those things around us so that we can find peace, so we can find happiness. We think that if we control it all, we'll get there. But even if we do, it's so tenuous because that thing is not going to last, the job isn't going to last forever. The person isn't going to do the perfect thing tomorrow. They're going to say something else tomorrow, So instead, we can work with our own mind and tame our reactivity and find the spaciousness in ourselves so that when those things come and poke us in our lives, we're not so reactive to them. And it's like we're putting on shoes and then we're not hurting our feet. So that's what meditation does for us. So let's take a comfortable seat. We can sit. For this meditation, it's fine to be sitting in a chair, or you can be sitting on the floor, cross-legged on the floor. And you can just place your hands in your lap, gently relaxed. Traditionally, we hold one hand in the other like this with the thumbs touching. I'll show it for those online. And then placing the hands just below the navel. So your thumbs are right below your belly button. But you can also just rest your palms on your thighs. And then check in with your posture. Make sure your spine is straight. You can imagine a thread going up your spine and out the crown of your head, and just tug on that thread to pull your spine nice and tall. And depending on what you're sitting on, you may need a cushion to support your back, or if you want to lean against the wall or anything, that's fine. But it's very important that our back is straight. Your shoulders are open, kind of back. Your elbows are out a bit, so we're not collapsed in on ourselves. We've got some openness here in this rib cage area. We have a lot of room around our rib cage so we can breathe. And your eyes will remain open, looking gently down. You can imagine a line following the bridge of your nose and extending down to the floor. And then find a point along that line where it's comfortable to rest your gaze. In this tradition, we meditate with our eyes open. But if this is your first time meditating, if you're not comfortable with that, it's okay to start by closing your eyes. But in our tradition, it's best to keep the eyes open because we're trying to practice wakefulness and not sleepiness. So just find a point following the bridge of your nose. Find a point to rest your gaze. And then lastly, place the tip of your tongue right behind your front teeth. It's like saying the letter L. And then allow yourself to relax completely and breathe normally. Just breathe in your natural rhythm. Sometimes it helps to take a couple deep breaths to settle into that natural rhythm. And then put a very light attention on your breathing. Don't try to control it at all. Just breathe naturally with the most gossamer thin attention on your breath. It's like taking your pulse. You don't put any pressure on it or try to change it in any way. Just observe it. Your attention is like a feather, gently riding on the surface of your breath. And while you're meditating, thoughts will come up, and that's okay. It's okay if thoughts come up. When they do, just let the thoughts go like bubbles popping on a surface of a pond. Just let them pop. Don't even look to see what they are. Don't check to see if it's a good thought or a bad thought or something you should remember later. Just let it go. Your meditation is not lost by hearing your thoughts, but by following them down the road. So when you find yourself following a thought, just drop it. Just let it pop and return to your breath. And if it's really difficult for you to dismiss your thoughts, you can imagine picking them up with tongs and throwing them away, or you could imagine cutting them with scissors and throwing them away. But you always return to your single-pointed concentration. Return again and again to the gossamer thin attention on your breath. So we're going to start with a 5-minute meditation, and then we'll take a break and meditate for a little longer. So just keep coming back to your breath. All right. So even just meditating for a short period of time like that on a regular basis really does a lot for creating stability in our minds, stability and spaciousness. A lot of times when people start meditation, sometimes people start and think they want to jump in with both feet, get started with some 2-hour meditation sessions or do like a 10-day silent retreat. For some people, that works for them. For most people, it's going to burn you out. So like this is like building a muscle. When we start working out at the gym, you don't start out lifting 400-pound weights and like, doing really long workouts. You start out with like walking and stretching and short little bursts of activity, right? Taking the stairs instead of the elevator. So with meditation, we're also building a muscle. So it's good to start small with something that is comfortable, where you're going to want to meditate again later. You're going to want to meditate again tomorrow. You're not going to burn yourself out and spend all of your meditation chips on one day. Like you want to still like it tomorrow. And that's going to be different for all of us, what that looks like. For some people, starting with 2 minutes is great. For some people, 20 minutes is a great place to start, an hour, it's just going to depend on the person. But it can, even just little bits add up. So we're going to sit for a little bit longer now. Let me set the timer. So we're going to do the same thing we did before for meditation. Coming into our meditation posture. If there's anything that you noticed was uncomfortable during our first round of meditation, if you need to loosen your pants or shift something about your chair, you can do that now. And then just settle in to your straight back, relaxed hands, eyes gazing downward. Allow yourself to relax completely and breathe normally. And put a very light attention on your breathing. It's just like taking your pulse. Not putting any pressure on it, just observing it. Your attention is like a feather, gently riding on the surface of your breath. So when we meditate for a little bit longer, we get to see our mind go through all sorts of emotional journeys over that period of time. I feel like there's an artist named Marina Abramovic who does like performance art. And I was watching one of her pieces the other day where she mixes a bunch of rice and lentils together on a table, and then like a big pile of them, and then counts them out, like 5 grains of rice, 5 lentils, 5 grains of rice, 5 lentils, like counts them into little piles. And it takes a very long time. She sits there for hours doing this, right? And she talks about the emotional processes that you go through while you're doing this. You go through these stages of, you go through boredom, you go through anger, you get angry. Why are you doing this? Why are you wasting your time on this? And it's like, and like if you go through, all of these processes, and I feel like we go through the same thing when we're meditating. It's almost like we go through like the 5 stages of grief or something, of being separate from our normal, from like grieving our normal, just running around doing whatever we want. And we're there and like, I'm angry, I'm pleading, can we just go do something else? Like you're trying to negotiate, like you could just meditate later, you don't know, but your mind goes through all these things. And yeah, you just got to stay with your breath. So just something to be aware of, that when sometimes if we get used to meditating for 5 minutes or something for a short period of time, meditating for a long period of time, yeah, you really get to see your mind go through a journey. So that's normal. And you just stay with your breath. And emotions, a wave of emotions usually only lasts, I think, something like a minute and a half, unless you're feeding it with a story. So if you're not reacting to these emotions as they arise, if you just are letting them pass by and you come back to the breath, they will pass by. So even sometimes it can feel like a big wave of anxiety might come up, and everything in your body is saying like, get up and run or something, get up and do something else, because that's how our nervous systems work. They think of the scary email is the same as a scary tiger. Like that's how our nervous systems work. So you can have a thought in your head that just suddenly makes your body go like, I got to react to this. And if you just come back to the breath, drop it, come back to the breath, it will pass. And over time, it will get easier to stay with the breath through those waves of emotions. You don't get knocked down as much by them. Over time, it start to get more used to just staying stable through the waves. So we're just going to end with a brief 3-minute meditation. And then we'll say our closing prayers. Okay, so sitting up straight, relaxed body, breathing naturally. Your attention is like a feather, gently riding on the surface of your breath. Okay, so we're going to close now with our dedication prayers. We'll read all three of these. Throughout my many lives and until this moment, whatever virtue I have accomplished, including the merit generated by this practice, and all that I will ever attain, this I offer for the welfare of sentient beings. May sickness, war, famine, and suffering be decreased for every being, while their wisdom and compassion increase in this and every future life. May I clearly perceive all experiences to be as insubstantial as the dream fabric of the night, and instantly awaken to perceive the pure wisdom display in the arising of every phenomenon. May I quickly attain enlightenment in order to work ceaselessly for the liberation of all sentient beings. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas all together, whatever kind of motivation you have, whatever kind of beneficial action, whatever kind of wishing prayers, whatever kind of omniscience, whatever kind of life accomplishment, whatever kind of benevolent power, and whatever kind of immense wisdom you have, similarly I, who have come in the same way to benefit beings, pray to attain these qualities. By this effort, may all sentient beings be free of suffering. May their minds be filled with the nectar of virtue. In this way, may all causes resulting in suffering be extinguished, and only the light of compassion shine throughout all realms. All right. Well, thank you for being here.